Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're tackling something pretty huge. It's one of the most profound and often challenging shifts in a tech career. I mean, how do you go from being, the top coder, the person shipping everything, to someone who actually makes everyone else better? It's not just a promotion. It feels like a whole different role. So our mission today is to really unpack that. What's the core identity shift? What skills do you need? And what's the practical playbook look like for, modern engineering leadership? We're digging into insights from contributor to catalyst, engineering leadership guide, and also the evolving engineering leader, from code to culture. Think of this as your deep dive into the anatomy of this really critical career jump.
That's a great way to put it, because it really isn't just about getting a new title on LinkedIn, is it?
Mm.
It's a fundamental change. Mindset, responsibilities, everything. And you'll find, I think, that some of the key parts are actually pretty counterintuitive, especially compared to what makes a really stellar individual contributor.
It is fascinating because, there's this common fear, right, for new leaders. They worry, okay, I'm coding less. Does that mean I'm less valuable now?
hmm
So what does that psychological shift really involve? Moving from like my output, my features, my bug fixes to something based on the team's success.
Yeah, that fears is almost universal. It's a totally understandable symptom of, well, clinging to that icy mindset where your value is your direct output. But the antidote, the way you reframe that, is embracing this new model where your main job is enabling others, empowering them. You become what people often call a force multiplier. Think about it. You help one engineer become twice as effective, maybe another overcome a blocker faster. Suddenly, your impact isn't just your own code. It's magnified across the entire team. Success looks different. It's team velocity. It's the quality everyone produces. It's team morale, not just your personal commit history.
Okay, understood. So becoming that force multiplier, what are the sort of core principles? How does someone really start living that new mindset day to day?
Well, I think it rests on three interconnected pillars. They really build on each other. First up is lead by example. And this isn't about telling people what to do. It's about showing them the standard. It's not just writing good code yourself, though that helps build credibility. It's demonstrating how to handle, say, a production fire calmly, or maybe proactively tackling some tricky tech debt nobody else wants to touch. Like maybe you refactor a messy, critical piece of code over a weekend, share it, and clearly explain why the changes matter for maintainability. That sets a benchmark. It builds trust without a single direct order. It shows excellence is about continuous improvement.
Right. Showing, not just telling. That makes sense.
Exactly. And building on that, the second pillar really changes how you interact with the team every day. Lead through service. You probably notice servant leadership. It flips the old pyramid upside down. The team's at the center. Your job becomes less about directing tasks and more about clearing roadblocks, getting them the resources they need, shielding them from distractions, protecting their focus. You sort of own the processes, planning, execution, reviews that enable them. By putting their needs and their growth first, you build empathy, respect, trust. It's powerful.
So example first, then service. What's the third pillar?
The third ties it all together. Lead through ownership. This means taking absolute responsibility for the team's outcomes, good and bad. Production issue. Even if you didn't write the line of code, you step up, you take accountability, shield the team from blame games, lead the effort to figure out what happened, how to prevent it. It's not just tech failures, unclear requirements, low morale. That's on you too. Figure out why and act. This total investment, this accountability, it builds incredibly deep trust. People know you've got their back.
Wow. Yeah. That's a huge shift from I built this to we achieved this, or even I'm accountable for this. Okay, so mindset is one thing. But what about the actual skills? How do you translate that intention into action?
Exactly. Good intentions aren't enough, right? You need the tools.
Yeah.
And while, look, deep technical skill is still the absolute foundation,
Non-negotiable, yeah, for credibility.
totally non-negotiable. You need it to guide technical discussions, make sound architectural calls, understand the challenges your team faces. You have to have that grounding.
Yeah.
But crucially, it's not the only skill anymore. Not by a long shot.
Okay, so beyond the tech chops, what else is in this essential skill stack for leaders?
First, you have to become a communication catalyst. This is huge. It's about articulating a clear vision, setting really unambiguous expectations. And it's also about translation.
Yeah.
Translating what clients or product wants into stuff developers can actually build. And then translating complex technical stuff back into clear insights for non-technical stakeholders. That back and forth is vital for alignment, keeps everyone on the same page.
That translation piece sounds key. What else?
Next up, emotional intelligence, EQ. I like to call it the human API. Because let's face it, building software is a team sport. Technical skill alone just doesn't cut it. EQ is your ability to, well, read the room, understand your own emotions, understand others. Empathy is huge here, understanding your customers, understanding your team members. Think about it. A developer's output drops. Without EQ, maybe you just pile on more work or issue a warning. With EQ, you might notice they seem withdrawn, maybe disengaged in meetings. So you approach them with curiosity, not accusation. Maybe you find out they're burning out, or there's something going on at home, or the role isn't the right fit. EQ lets you find the real problem. It builds psychological safety, boosts morale, helps people perform.
The human API, I like that. It's about understanding the people system, not just the code system.
Precisely. Then there's the strategic mindset, seeing the big picture. As an IC, you're often deep in the weeds of a specific task. As a leader, you have to constantly zoom out. How does our work connect to the company's big goals? What's the competition doing? What do customers really need? It's about asking why, relentlessly. Making sure the team's effort delivers actual business value. That customer focus is critical. Right. Connecting the dots between the code and the business. Yeah. And then, maybe more crucial now than ever, adaptability and resilience. Tech changes constantly. Requirements shift. Things break. Adaptability is being able to pivot quickly, solve problems creatively without, everything falling apart. Resilience is staying calm under pressure, learning from setbacks, basically being the steady hand when things get chaotic. You're the shock absorber for the team.
Keeping cool when the pressure's on. Essential.
Absolutely. And finally, underpinning all of this is a continuous learner mentality. Tech doesn't stand still, right? So you can't either. Good leaders are always learning, monitoring trends, upskilling themselves, and encouraging their team to do the same. Fostering that culture of curiosity. That's actually a huge motivator for developers. Keeps things interesting, keeps the team sharp.
That's quite a stack. Technical base, communication, EQ, strategy, adaptability, continuous learning. Out of all those, which one do new leaders typically struggle with the most? Or maybe overlook?
That's a really good question. Often I'd say it's the EQ piece. Engineers are trained logic machines, right? Human stuff can feel messy, unpredictable. It's not in the manual. It takes deliberate practice, self-awareness, reflection. And maybe the strategic mindset gets overlooked too because it requires stepping back from the immediate buzz of shipping code and thinking more abstractly.
That makes total sense. And it leads perfectly into this big fork in the road many engineers face. It's a huge question. Do you aim for the technical lead path or the engineering manager path?
Ah, yes, the classic TL versus EM debate. It's such a critical decision point. And the key thing to remember is it's not about which role is better or pays more or whatever. It's about fit. What genuinely energizes you? Does your passion lie in deeply understanding technology, designing elegant architectures? Or is it more about growing people, building teams, coaching individuals? That's the core question.
Okay, fit over hierarchy. I like that framing. Can you break down the differences a bit more clearly, maybe using that film analogy you mentioned earlier?
Yeah, let's stick with that. It helps make it concrete. So think of the technical lead, TL, as the architect and technical guide. Maybe the movie's chief architect or the director focused on the technical execution. Their primary focus is the technology, the how things get built, core responsibilities, system design, deep code reviews, setting technical standards, tackling the gnarliest bugs, mentoring engineers on specific tech skills. They're often still pretty hands-on with code. Success for them looks like code quality, system stability, scalability, architectural integrity, keeping tech debt low. Their driving force is that passion for solving tough technical puzzles, building cool stuff. They love the nuts and bolts.
Okay, the architect. Got it. And the engineering manager.
So the engineering manager, EM, is more like the coach and people developer. Think the team's producer, maybe, or the conductor, ensuring the whole orchestra plays together beautifully. Their primary focus shifts. It's less about the how and more about the who does the work and why they're doing it. People and process become central. Core responsibilities, regular one-on-ones, career development talks, performance management, hiring, team health and morale, managing stakeholder chats, planning resources. It's about the human system. Success for an EM is measured differently. Team health metrics, low turnover, individual growth, projects delivering on time, team velocity. Their motivation comes from coaching, mentoring, empowering others to succeed. They see their success through the team's success. They still need to be technically savvy enough to understand the work, but their main focus is enabling the people. It's a shift from doing to enabling.
That film analogy really does nail the difference. Producer versus architect. Okay, so if leadership is really about these mindsets and skills, not just the title, This raises an important point for listeners, right? If you're not a formal leader yet, how do you actually start leading? How do you demonstrate this stuff before you get the promotion?
That's such a critical point
Yeah.
because honestly, the title often comes after you've already started demonstrating leadership potential. It's usually recognition, not permission. The best way to get there is through what you might call deliberate practice, actively looking for opportunities to lead in your current role. Building up a track record, a portfolio of accomplishments, that makes you the obvious choice when an opening appears.
Okay, deliberate practice. I like that. What does that look like in concrete terms? What can someone actually do starting tomorrow?
Great question. There are lots of ways. First, own a process. Every team has something that's clunky or inefficient, right? A deployment script, the way docs are managed, maybe meeting structures. Find one, take the initiative, figure out how to fix it, and champion that change. I remember this junior dev once who totally revamped our ancient deployment process. Cut errors way down. No title, but pure leadership. Everyone noticed. It shows you're proactive, team first, and can solve systemic problems.
Taking initiative on team pain points. Good one. What else?
Second, mentor and coach. Actively look for opportunities to help junior folks on the team. Share what you know, help them debug, guide them to find answers themselves, and crucially, give them public credit when they succeed. This is basically practicing people development skills.
Paying it forward and practicing leadership at the same time. Nice.
Exactly. Third, elevate your questions. Start shifting your focus. Don't just ask what needs to be built or how to build it. Start asking why. Why this feature? What's the real user problem we're solving here?
Yeah.
Is this the absolute simplest way to achieve that goal? Asking why shows strategic thinking, gets the whole team thinking more critically.
Moving from execution to strategy through questions. Smart.
Fourth, be the calm in the storm. Crises happen. Production goes down. A critical bug pops up. How you react says a lot. Stay calm. Avoid blaming. Focus everyone on finding the solution, learning from it. That kind of stability under pressure builds massive trust. Shows leadership maturity.
The in the steady hand. Yeah.
Fifth, think beyond the ticket. Don't just code up the JIRA story and move on. Try to connect your work to the bigger picture. How does this fit into the user's journey? What are the tech debt implications? Are we even solving the right problem here? Thinking like this starts to shift you from just a coder to someone with a product and strategic mindset.
Seeing the forest, not just the trees.
You got it. And finally, facilitate communication. See a gap between your team and product, or between engineering teams. Volunteer to bridge it. Help clarify requirements, coordinate dependencies. This is practicing stakeholder management, building influence beyond your immediate team. All really powerful ways to lead without needing the title.
Those are fantastic, actionable tips. Anyone can start doing those. Okay, let's shift gears slightly. A big part of leadership, especially getting initiatives off the ground, is the dreaded business case. For a lot of engineers, this feels like, corporate hoops to jump through. Why is building a business case actually so critical? Why isn't it just bureaucracy?
Ah, the business case. Yeah, I get why it feels like that sometimes. But it's a massive misunderstanding to see it just as paperwork. Honestly, it's one of the most powerful leadership tools you have. Why? Because it forces you to make that crucial shift from a solution-first mindset, I have this cool tech idea, to a problem-first mindset. What business problem does this solve? Which is fundamental to leadership. It makes you engage with business folks, learn their language, ROI, strategy, market impact, the document itself. That's just the output. The real value is in the thinking, the stakeholder conversations, the business smarts you build while creating it. It's how you articulate why your idea matters to the business.
Okay, framing it as a strategic thinking tool, not just a document, that helps. So how do you actually build a good one? A bulletproof one? What are the key steps?
There were basically 6 core steps to making it compelling. Step 1, identify the business problem or opportunity. Start with the why. What's the pain point? Lost revenue, high churn, inefficiency. Or is it an opportunity, like entering a new market? Crucially, link it clearly to the company's strategic goals.
Start with the problem, not the solution. Got it.
Yes. Step 2, define the solution and objectives. Okay, now propose your solution, but immediately connect it to SMART objectives. Remember SMART. Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time-bound. Don't just say make things faster. Say reduce average customer onboarding time by 20% in the next quarter. Quantifiable goals are everything here.
Makes sense. Be specific about the outcome.
Step 3, analyze alternatives. And you absolutely must include the do-nothing option. What happens if we don't solve this problem? What are the consequences? Also, briefly evaluate other potential solutions. What are their pros, cons, costs, risks? This shows you've thought it through properly, considered different angles, demonstrates rigor.
Showing your work, basically.
Pretty much. Step 4, present a cost-benefit analysis. This is the money part, the heart of the case. And don't just think initial cost. Include the total cost of ownership, TCO, training, maintenance, ongoing support. Then quantify the benefits. Tangible ones like revenue gains, cost savings. Estimate intangible ones too, like better customer sat or improved brand image. The goal is to clearly show the return on investment, how the benefits stack up against the costs.
The ROI. Okay, what's next?
Step 5, outline the implementation plan and risk assessment. You need a high-level plan. What are the major phases? Key milestones, rough timeline, what resources do you need? And critically, be honest about the risks, technical hurdles, budget issues, market changes. List them out, but also propose concrete mitigation strategies for each. Shows you're prepared, not just optimistic.
Planning and risk management.
Yeah.
Crucial.
And finally, step 6, craft a compelling narrative. Pull all these pieces together into a persuasive story. Start with a killer executive summary. Make it grab attention. Use clear, simple language, especially for non-technical readers. Back up your claims with data. Make it logical, yes, but also try to make it resonate. Why should they care?
Tell a story with data.
Okay, that's a great blueprint.
Yeah.
So let's say you get the green light. The focus shifts to actually building the thing. Here's where it gets really interesting for folks who love building. How does a leader ensure quality? And how do you manage that ever-present reality of technical debt? It feels like a constant battle. Yeah, ensuring quality while managing debt. That's a core tension. Effective technical oversight isn't about breathing down people's necks or reviewing every single line of code yourself. That doesn't scale, and it kills autonomy. It's really about designing and championing a system for quality, a process that bakes quality in from the start. You, as the leader, are like the chief architect of the development process itself. Your job is to defend against the big ball of mud or spaghetti code. Make it easy for the team to do the right thing.
Designing the system for quality, not just inspecting the output. Okay,
Yeah.
does that start with getting the architecture right up front, that architecture first idea?
Generally, yes. While you definitely need agility and iteration, a solid foundation helps immensely. So leaning towards architecture first is usually smart. Before you even write feature code, you need to define the architecture at a high level. Think about clear modular components. How do they interact? Modularity pays off hugely later in terms of maintenance and parallel work. And part of that is selecting the right tools. Choosing frameworks, languages, databases based on the project's actual needs. Scalability, performance, security, team skills. Not just because something is trendy or familiar. Avoid that buzzword-driven development. A bad initial architecture is really hard to recover from.
Okay, get the blueprint reasonably solid. Then how do you maintain quality day to day during the build?
That's where you establish a system for quality within the team's workflow. It's got several key parts. First, coding standards. Have clear documented standards. Even better, use automated tools, linters, formatters to enforce them. Makes code readable, consistent, easier to maintain for everyone.
Takes the arguments out of it too.
Exactly. Second, code reviews. Foster a culture where reviews are seen as positive. Not just catching bugs, but sharing knowledge, mentoring, improving consistency. It's a learning opportunity, not just a gate.
Make reviews constructive, not critical.
Precisely. Third, automation. Automate everything you possibly can that's repeatable. Infrastructure as code, IAC, CI/CD pipelines, automated testing, backups, security scans. It saves huge amounts of time and drastically cuts down on human error.
Automate the boring stuff.
You bet. And fourth, a smart testing strategy. Mandate good unit test coverage for critical logic. Implement automated integration tests, end-to-end tests for key user journeys. These tests are your safety net. They give you confidence to refactor and deploy frequently.
Okay, standards, reviews, automation, testing. That sounds like a solid system. But technical debt, it always creeps in, right?
Wait.
What's the leader's role there? It feels like a battle you can't quite win.
It is a reality. You can't eliminate it entirely, nor should you always try. Sometimes taking on short-term debt strategically is the right call. The key is proactive technical debt management. It's about managing it, not ignoring it until it cripples you. First step is identification. Makes the debt visible. How? Through code reviews, look for those code smells. Through metrics, track bug density, time to implement features in certain areas. Use static analysis tools like SonarQuib. They're great at highlighting risky or complex code.
Shine a light on it. Okay.
Second, prioritization. Not all debt is equally painful. Use the 80-20 rule, the Pareto principle. Focus on the 20% of the debt that's causing 80% of the problems, slowing down development, causing bugs, blocking important features. Prioritize based on impact versus effort. How bad is it? How hard is it to fix? Tackle the high impact, relatively low effort stuff first, usually.
Be strategic about which debt to pay down.
Exactly. And third, reduction. Treat it like financial debt. You have to make regular payments. A really effective way is to allocate a fixed percentage of every sprint's capacity, maybe 10%, 20%, specifically to tackling items from the prioritized tech debt backlog. Make it a habit, part of the regular rhythm. That way, you keep it under control, chip away at it consistently, rather than letting it build up into an insurmountable mountain. It's an investment in future speed and stability.
Making debt reduction a regular habit, not a panic move. I like that. Okay, so you've built it, managed the debt, shipped it, but you're not done, right? This raises an important question. How do you actually prove the value? How do you measure and communicate the impact?
Absolutely crucial final step. This is where you close the loop. You validate the effort. You build credibility for yourself and your team across the company. It's what turns we shipped a project into we delivered a strategic win. And that makes it much easier to get support for your next big idea. You're demonstrating the team's contribution in terms the business understands.
So what are we measuring? Can be more than just lines of code, right?
Oh, please, never lines of code. That's a vanity metric at best, misleading at worst. You need to measure what matters. Focus on value, efficiency, quality, things like reduction in manual work, maybe tracking the percentage of code that gets deployed successfully the first time without needing hot fixes. And definitely adopt the DORA metrics. They're industry standard for a reason.
Right, the DORA metrics. Remind us what those are.
Sure. There are 4 key ones that give a really holistic view. Deployment frequency. How often are you successfully releasing code? Higher frequency often means more agility. Lead time for changes. How long does it take from a code commit to get into production? Measure speed. Change failure rate. What percentage of your deployments cause problems in production? Measure stability. And mean time to recovery, MTTR. When a failure does happen, how quickly can you fix it? Measures resilience. Together, they paint a great picture of your team's delivery performance.
Okay, frequency, lead time, failure rate, recovery time. Got it. So you have these metrics, these insights. How do you make sure the right people hear the message in the right way?
That comes down to knowing your audience. You need to identify and engage your stakeholders. A simple stakeholder analysis matrix can help. Who are the key players you need buy-in from? Who just needs to be kept satisfied? Who just needs to be kept informed? Who do you just need to monitor? Based on that, you create an engagement plan. What's the best way to communicate with each group? Email update, a dashboard, a formal presentation, how often, what level of detail do they need? Tailor the message and the medium.
Tailoring the communication makes sense. Okay, let's unpack this critical piece. How do you bridge that gap between the technical achievement and what the business actually cares about? How do you translate?
This is arguably the most vital communication skill for an engineering leader. You have to relentlessly translate technical wins into business impact. Always ask yourself, so what? For every technical thing you report, immediately follow it with the business implication. Don't just say, we reduced MTTR by 50%. Mistake. We now restore service twice as fast after an outage. This significantly cuts potential revenue loss during downtime and protects our brand reputation for reliability. See the difference?
Yeah, connecting it directly to money or reputation.
Exactly. Use storytelling. Link the engineering work directly back to the company's big strategic goals. By paying down tech debt in the checkout flow, we boosted development velocity by 30%. This let us launch those new pricing experiments faster, which are projected to increase Q4 revenue by 5%. Make that connection impossible to miss.
That's powerful, making the value explicit. One more communication challenge.
Yeah.
Uncertainty. Estimates are always fuzzy, especially early on. How do you communicate that without sounding like you don't know what you're doing, without losing trust?
The estimation game. Yeah, you need to predict with confident humility. A great tool here is the cone of uncertainty concept. Explain it. Show visually how estimates are naturally broad at the start, when you know the least, and get progressively tighter, more accurate, as you learn more through design and development. You can say something like, look, our initial estimate has a wide range, maybe X to Y weeks, that reflects the current unknowns. As we complete the design spike next week and start building the core pieces, that range will narrow significantly. We'll give you a much more precise forecast then. It frames uncertainty as a normal, manageable part of software development. You build trust through transparency, not by making brittle promises you probably can't keep. Trying to fake certainty always backfires eventually.
Confident humility and the cone of uncertainty. Love that. Okay, we've covered a lot about the path to leadership and how to lead, but it's not always smooth sailing. This raises an important question. What are the common traps, the landmines, that new leaders especially need to watch out for? How do they spot them?
Recognizing these pitfalls early is just critical. It saves so much pain later. And interestingly, they often stem directly from those old icy habits, the very things that made you successful before. What got you here won't get you there, right?
Right. So what are some of the biggest ones you see tripping people up?
Okay, number one, definitely the do-it-all fallacy, also known as under-delegating. New leaders often feel they need to prove themselves by doing everything, or they think, oh, I could just do it faster myself. Huge mistake. Leads straight to burnout for you, creates a bottleneck for the team. And this is key. It robs your team members of chances to learn and grow. The fix. Relentless delegation. Define the outcome you want, give them the context and authority, and trust them and get out of the way. Your job is to empower, not execute everything.
Letting go. Hard but necessary. What's another common one?
The toxic sibling. Micromanagement, that obsessive need to control how everyone does their work down to the last detail. It just suffocates people, destroys trust, kills creativity, tanks morale faster than almost anything. How to avoid it? Set clear expectations, define the what and why, then grant autonomy on the how. Ask guiding questions, don't just give orders. Trust your team. Hire good people and let them do their jobs.
Trust and autonomy. Okay. What else?
Getting tunnel vision. This is when you get so focused on the immediate technical tasks or the current sprint's goals that you lose sight of the bigger picture. You end up building features perfectly
Yeah.
that nobody actually needs or that don't align with where the business is going. The way to avoid this is constant communication. Talk to product, talk to stakeholders, talk to customers if you can. Always be asking why and checking alignment.
Keeping the strategic context in mind.
Yeah. Then there's the coding management imbalance. This is a tricky one for many technical leaders. Code too much, and you neglect your leadership duties, the one-on-ones, the strategic thinking, the communication. Code too little, and you risk losing technical credibility or becoming disconnected from the team's daily reality. Finding the right balance is key. Maybe aiming for, say, 10–30% of your time on high-leverage technical work, architectural design, maybe prototyping something complex, doing thoughtful code reviews on critical pieces, stuff that adds value but doesn't put you on the critical path for delivering features.
High leverage tech work, not just coding tickets. Got it. Any others?
One more crucial one, not documenting feedback. You have an important conversation about performance or development goals, you give great verbal feedback, and then there's no record. This inevitably leads to confusion later. Did we talk about that? What exactly were the expectations? It can also cause real problems down the line, even HR issues. Simple fix. After any significant verbal feedback session, follow up with a concise, neutral email. Just summarize the key points, agreed actions, expectations, creates clarity, provides a record. Vital.
Documenting feedback. Seems simple, but easily missed. Okay, beyond these individual pitfalls, you also mentioned anti-patterns, things that affect the whole team's health. How does a leader act like the team's immune system against those?
Yeah, anti-patterns are like those bad habits that feel efficient or easy in the short term, but cause long-term damage. A leader needs to spot them and intervene. And what's really interesting is how leadership anti-patterns often directly create technical anti-patterns. Like a leader who constantly changes priorities or sets unrealistic deadlines, that pressure often forces developers to cut corners, leading straight to spaghetti code. So the code quality often mirrors the leadership quality. The leader needs to be vigilant against both types.
Wow, leadership causing tech debt, that's a direct link.
So what are some common anti-patterns on the leadership side?
Well, classic leadership anti-patterns include things like rigid command and control leadership. Top-down decisions, no room for input, stifles innovation and ownership, very old school, very ineffective long-term, or analysis paralysis, getting stuck endlessly collecting data, debating options, but never actually making a decision. The team just spins its wheels. Or sometimes death by planning excessive documentation, spending weeks creating hyper-detailed plans before any real work starts, totally violating agile ideas, wastes time, kills flexibility. Right, process getting in the way of progress. And on the technical side?
On the technical anti-pattern side, you see the results. Spaghetti code, or the big ball of mud code, that's so tangled and interconnected, it's impossible to change anything without breaking 5 other things. Nightmare to maintain. The God object one class or module that tries to do everything, it knows too much, has too many responsibilities, makes the whole system brittle and hard to understand. The golden hammer relying on one specific tool or technology for every single problem even when it's obviously not the best fit, just because it's familiar. And things like lava flow or boat anchor, that's all the dead, obsolete code or features that just hangs around forever because nobody dares remove it, slowing everything down. A good leader helps the team recognize and address these.
Being the immune system against bad patterns, both leadership and technical. That's a great metaphor. Okay, as we start to wrap up this fantastic deep dive, let's look to the horizon. So, what does this all mean for the future, particularly with the crazy acceleration we're seeing in artificial intelligence? How does that change the game for engineering leaders?
Yeah, AI is the big question, isn't it? It's definitely a seismic shift. But honestly, I see it much more as an opportunity than a threat for good leaders.
Yeah.
AI is becoming an incredible force multiplier. Think about tools like GitHub Copilot or similar code assistants. They're taking over a lot of the routine boilerplate coding tasks. That frees up developers to focus on harder problems, more complex design thinking. AI is also starting to help with project management tasks, predicting risks, optimizing schedules, even drafting initial documentation. It's augmenting capabilities.
So, if AI takes on more of the routine coding and maybe some PM tasks, does that mean the leader's job shifts even more towards those uniquely human skills we talked about?
Absolutely, 100%. As AI handles more of the code minutia, more of the predictable task tracking, the leader's value proposition shifts upwards. It elevates the focus onto things AI can't do, like setting strategic vision. AI can optimize a path, but it can't define the destination. It doesn't have purpose. The leader still needs to define the why, articulate the vision, inspire the team. That's deeply human.
Defining the purpose.
Yeah. And a much deeper focus on coaching and developing talent. If AI helps with the what of coding, the leader needs to coach the how of thinking, critical thinking, creative problem solving, systems design thinking, coaching engineers on how to partner effectively with AI tools. It's about leveling up the team's cognitive skills.
Building the AI-augmented team.
Exactly. Then there's cultivating culture. AI can't build psychological safety. It can't foster a culture of innovation and smart risk-taking. It can't navigate complex interpersonal dynamics or resolve conflict. That remains firmly in the leader's court. Building a healthy, high-performing team environment is more critical than ever.
The human element of culture.
For sure. And finally, navigating complex human systems. The hardest problems are rarely just technical, right? They're socio-technical. Managing stakeholders, building consensus across different groups, communicating effectively, negotiating. These are complex human interactions. AI isn't doing that. The leader is the essential connector, the navigator of these human systems.
So, the core human skills become even more paramount. What a fascinating perspective. This has been an incredibly insightful deep dive. It's so clear that moving from IC to leader isn't just a step up, it's a genuine transformation. From focusing on your own output to amplifying everyone. And it seems like those core principles we dug into, servant leadership, clear communication, strategic thinking, empathy, coaching, they aren't fading away with AI. If anything, they're becoming even more critical differentiators.
Couldn't agree more. Mastering these timeless, human-centric fundamentals, that's what equips leaders to navigate whatever technological shifts come next. They are the bedrock.
So, as a final thought for everyone listening, as you consider your own journey, maybe ask yourself this. How will you continuously evolve your own value? How will you leverage your uniquely human skills, not just to lead your team today, but to actually help shape what success even looks like in this increasingly AI-driven world?